Minigames. You either hate them or you love them. They are usually a distraction from the main game that takes certain gameplay aspects and limit them with their own set of rules. And if done properly, they can be really fun, especially if they don't halt the progress of the actual game, or is just what the entire game is based off of. And the Legend of Zelda series has been a great example of that. You can play the entire game without playing a single minigame, yet minigames have been a staple within the series. Used as challenges to unlock collectibles such as item upgrades and heart pieces, so for those looking to 100% a Zelda game, you have to pretty much play each and every minigame and perform a nearly perfect run on it. And while some can be really fun to do so, some can get absolutely dreadful. So in this video, I'll be going over my top 5 best and my top 5 worst minigames throughout the Zelda series. Number 5 best. Majora's Mask is what I consider the biggest variety in gameplay when it comes to minigames within the series. As with each transformation mask, there is a minigame to go with it, even fierce deities if you want to consider refighting each and every boss fight. Cause with how OP you are, it's sorta more like a minigame than a boss battle. But my favorite actual minigame out of these has to be the Goron Race, with obviously using the Goron mask. The Goron Race is a minigame that can be played for the gold dust that can be used to upgrade your sword, though it can only be played after claiming Snowhead Temple and bringing back Spring to Goron Village. As in doing so, the Gorons are able to get back from freezing to death to live their lives, including a Goron race. Link tricks the Gorons into thinking he's Darmani with the mask on to enter the race. You race against a bunch of different Gorons as you all rip like Beyblades rolling across the course. And this has been by far my favorite way to travel within the game, as using the Goron masks makes you pick up insane speed, and makes even Epona seem like a complete joke in comparison. So putting this mechanic of the Goron's insane rolling speed into a minigame is actually a lot of fun. While the race itself can be won easily, it is real easy to mess up, as it's also really hard to control Link when he's rolling at such an intense speed. Which makes it pretty hilarious to see the other Gorons against Link roll at the same speed as well. Overall, while the minigame is very simple, it's also super fun just because of how it is to roll as a Goron. Number 5 worst. From what was the fastest racing minigame in Majora's Mask to what is the slowest. Mama Muyan's Doggy Racetrack. In this minigame, you gamble on a dog to win the race itself. And this minigame can be completely up to luck on which dog you choose, but with the help of the Mask of Truth, you can speak to each one of the dogs and figure out which one's more determined and confident to win. While this still leaves it up to chance, you have a higher chance of picking a more confident dog in winning. But regardless of which you pick, this minigame sucks. I mean, you just have to sit there and watch a dog race, which couldn't get any more boring. And it doesn't matter what buttons you click, if your dog isn't good, it isn't good. It's honestly torturous to have to sit and watch the race, especially if your dog is a losing one. You're pretty much just gambling on a dog. I honestly question what fun Nintendo thought this would bring. I mean, in concept, it is pretty funny, but it also gets really boring and frustrating with it being a dog race. Number 4 best. Have you ever wanted to feel like Spider-Man in a Zelda game? Well, you can, with the Star Tent minigame. This minigame from Twilight Princess has Link clawshot his way around a cage, collecting balls of light. It's a bizarre minigame that makes use of the clawshots in a really interesting way. You challenge yourself to see how efficient you are in quickly aligning yourself with the stars and going high. I have to say, by far one of the most extravagant minigames in the series entirely. And speaking of extravagant, the minigame itself is hosted by what seems to be a reincarnation of Tingle. Perlo, a somewhat interesting looking man with his getup very similar to Tingle's, holds his minigame in a tent found within Hyrule Castle Town. The tent is surrounded by girls awaiting Link's appearance, as when he does appear, they swoon over him and chase him around. But I mean, who can blame them? Anyways, overall the star minigame is a great way to make use of Link's Claw Shot, with it being a light show of sorts. By far one of the most flashy minigames out there, which is why I love it so much. Number 4, worst. Heart-pounding Grave Tour? Pfft, more like heart-stopping Grave Tour, cause this tour makes me want to die. Anyways, the Heart-Pounding Grave Tour is a minigame held by Dampé the Gravekeeper from Kakariko's graveyard in Ocarina of Time. There you pay Dampé to dig dirt spots along his route when gravekeeping, though this can only be done from 6 PM to 9 PM, which in Ocarina of Time, a game where you can only get the time from hitting a gossip stone, and in general, the day itself only lasts 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the real world, making each hour only 12 seconds long. It's a bit hard to find the right window for this minigame. Luckily, time only passes when you're out in Hyrule Field, so as long as you enter Kakariko Village around the correct time, it should stay that exact time until you head back out to the field. And with that said, for how exclusive this minigame is, you would think it would be fun. But not at all. As mentioned, you pay Dampé to dig spots around the grave for you, until you get yourself your heart piece, as most other rewards are useless or you get less than what you paid for him to dig. So then again, this isn't really much of a game than it is gambling. And when you really think about it, Dampé is sort of doing the opposite of what he should be doing. Instead of watching the grave for grave robbers, he is the one robbing it for profit. I don't think the royal family of Hyrule would be too happy of that. Number 3, worst. I have never been more annoyed by a minigame than this one. It's pretty much Minesweeper in The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. Why? I don't know. So it takes more luck than anything else to win this minigame, which if you couldn't tell by now, I'm not really a fan of. And each time you mess up, you get one of these. Sploosh! Yeah, gets annoying. The minigame is run by Salvatore, a very weird person who likes to act like recognizable characters for some odd reason. He also runs the barrel shoot minigame, in which you can find him act. But while that minigame requires some skill, Squid Hunt does not. You're given an 8x8 grid and you must locate the squids before you run out of cannonballs. And once you find a squid, you're not done yet, as you must blow out a few more that are connected to that first one you found, which could require even more luck as you're given 4 different directions to go from, and this must be done in 3 separate chains. And while explaining this does sound pretty easy, as your odds shouldn't be that low after a few times, this isn't the case with this minigame. This is the minigame that I honestly dread even before starting a new file on this game. Knowing that I will aim to 100% the game and that this will be on the list, I never look forward to it. Honestly don't know, like my odds for this minigame are so low and I don't know if it's just me. And it doesn't help the fact that you are given multiple different rewards from this minigame, so even if you do get lucky and win once, you can't just call it quits. And what really frustrates me about this minigame is that this should normally take no more than a few minutes if you get lucky, but it can also go the complete opposite way, taking hours to do. And this is from experience. I've been haunted by the sploosh, 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 more than I can imagine. Number 3, best. Shield surfing has to be one of the many amazing things to come from Breath of the Wild. The game has many ways to travel, with shield surfing actually being a viable method. It's great when heading down mountains to help pick up speed. And I remember thinking of this exact concept way back in Twilight Princess, when Link used that giant frozen leaf to snowboard down Snow Peak. Well, it made sense, I guess. I remember thinking that the shield would have been a way cooler way to have Link surf on. Though in Breath of the Wild, you pretty much get to recreate that experience, but on a much bigger mountain and on a way cooler board. Zelda's spot is the perfect hot spot for this. Or should I say cold spot? That wasn't even a pun, I'm sorry. But there, those can surf down a huge snowy path perfect for snowboarding. And it's owned by Selmai, hence the name, a legendary surfer. Well, she retired herself according to her notes, she offers Link challenges to surf down the mountain for special rewards. There are 2 types of this course, each time to see how fast you can beat it, with her even giving rare shields as a reward. And the minigame itself can be really fun when sticking to the right path, as it's easy to get lost. But speaking of which, according to her notes, Selmy mentions how she witnessed many shield surfers meet their tragic fate because of how dangerous surfing can get. Which would explain why she retired, yet she is fine challenging Link like there's nothing to it. Guess this job is only for the raddest. Sorry. Number 2 worst. Batter up! Take me out to the Octoball game, take me out to the crowd, buy me some Deku nuts and Deku sticks, I don't care if I never fucking win this game because it sucks! Sorry. The Octoball Derby minigame is how it sounds. It's like a baseball minigame, but with an Octorok. Kinda clever, right? I mean, look at how cute the setup is. You got a little Octorok pitcher with his little baseball cap spitting the ball as he would, with Link battering up. But instead of trying to touch a home run, Link has to destroy as many jars on the field. So actually this isn't like baseball outside of the aesthetic. It's more like a target practice with the worst way of hitting a target. Because holy shit is this game hard. Outside of having to hit a moving target pitched towards Link, you must also angle the shot perfectly to hit the target. And with each target destroyed, it gets harder to land another one as there's less things to hit. Each shot is based on the timing and angle of which the ball was hit in. And surprisingly, this isn't something easy to perfect. This is a minigame that not only requires you to not miss, but also manage to calculate the exact time you're about to hit the ball before it passes by you. And each hit will change the direction and speed on the ball. This can get insanely annoying when trying to take it on. I can't stress how much I dreaded this minigame when going for a 100% run within A Link Between Worlds. Honestly, I'm not sure if I was missing some obvious clue with hitting the ball, but it really feels like Nintendo wanted to push the buttons of those who wanted to 100% complete this. I remember spending hours and hours recording this minigame for my channel way back when I Let's Played this, and I hated every second. While in concept the minigame is actually really cool, from the baseball aesthetic to even allowing Link to use different types of elemental rods for his bats, the minigame itself is less of a challenge and feels like more of a game of chance. Which is why I despise it. Number 2 best. I feel like some of you could agree on my list up until this point, but this is where my bias may come in. Clean Cut, a minigame found on Bamboo Island, is a game run by Peter from Skyward Sword. Peter mastered the way of bamboo chopping and now has a minigame all about it. He was once known as Mr. Skyloft and claimed to be very popular back then. Though judging by Peter's physique, those days seem to have passed him, as he seems to be still wearing his old night gear, which doesn't really fit anymore. But maybe there's a secret behind this. I mean, when you slash your arms back and forth at such a continuous speed and motion, I think having a good center mass may help with your balance, right? Probably not. That aside, the minigame itself has Link cut down bamboo slices in quick succession in order to get as many cuts as he can before the bamboo stick falls. This kind of felt like some anime-like samurai technique you see characters do before seconds later the character bursts in half or something. I mean, maybe Peter is a weeb trying to be a master of the arts of anime, but I can't deny that it makes for a good minigame. And since Skyward Sword uses motion controls, the game has you physically slash back and forth to play. So this is the sort of minigame where your real-world skills may actually be useful in the game itself. Not really though, because the motion controls on the Wii is really bad and doesn't really register every slice you do, so not really. But I mean, this kind of reminds me of when I was a kid and I used to use my toy Master Sword and slash the air like it was some enemy when I was alone in my room. I can't be the only one who did that, right? Regardless, this minigame kind of brought to life this concept in a real way. And I can't deny that while it's very, very simple, I always got a kick out of it, trying to get a better score each time. This was one of the few minigames I would actually play for more than just a reward, but to actually break my previous records. Number 1, Best and Worst. For number 1 on the list, I thought I would do something a little bit different, as this will be both the best and worst minigame, because this is truly how I feel about this minigame. I really do hate this minigame, but I also can't deny that I absolutely love it. That minigame being fishing. Fishing is a common thing found throughout the Zelda series, and it's actually something very common in many games, especially JRPGs. And I never really understood why. I mean, it's a video game, yet fishing in a game is more boring than fishing in real life. How does that make sense? Like, shouldn't the game version be more exciting than the real life version? Sadly, that is never the case when it comes to fishing in a game. Almost every game that has fishing in it plays the exact same. You wait for the controller to rumble or some on-screen prompt, and then you attempt to reel it in as you struggle against a chance of losing it, making it even more annoying because it's supposed to be relaxing. Then it becomes worrying and tedious as you may lose the fish after you spent all that time for it to even latch on the hook. Sorta like real life, but in real life you actually have the thrill of catching the thing. That sense of accomplishment you get in real life will never translate to how it feels like in a game. I don't care how big the fish is in the game. I don't. So why do so many JRPGs think it's worth having this in their games? Hell, I feel like fishing has managed to get itself in games that doesn't even make sense. Like, how the hell do we have fishing in a game like Call of Duty Zombies? Why? What is the point? I just really want to know who out there enjoys the idea of fishing in games so much, and why you're so fucking boring. But rant aside and getting back on topic, in the Zelda series, fishing, like all minigames, is necessary to 100% the game at times, as it rewards Link with certain collectibles. Each game has slight variations on the activity, but they all usually play out the same. In Link's Awakening, you had a 2D view of the pond as you fished out Mario-like enemies for rewards. It wasn't as annoying as a later version of it in the series, but it still got pretty annoying as it was tedious to reel in the fish, as it took a lot of time and a lot of spamming of the A button. But where fishing takes the cake in being annoying has to be in Ocarina of Time. As in the game, you went to the fishing hole to attempt to catch the biggest fish in the pond. But unlike Link's Awakening with the game being in 2D, the game was in 3D, which gave it way more depth and space to aim your lure at, which wasn't better. And alongside that, the fish themselves were sorta given a mind of their own. Like, if you didn't trick the fish into thinking the lure wasn't bait, it wouldn't fall for it. Or if you'd move the lure too fast, it would swim away. Like, appreciate the realism, but in a video game, I don't want this. And even if you finally get the fish to latch on, then you have to struggle and pull it out of the water, which can take so long. And not just that, you could easily fail it, resulting in having to pretty much leave the fishing hole entirely to reset the fish and do it all again. And this is something you also had to do twice for the rewards, as you had to do it both as a child and as an adult. So to say the least, I didn't enjoy this whatsoever. But so far I've only said the negative experiences I've had with this minigame. But this is also somewhat my favorite minigame somehow. And to elaborate, while in Ocarina of Time and A Link's Awakening, the minigame was dreadful, in games like Twilight Princess, fishing was delightful. Twilight Princess took the concept of fishing and didn't force you to do it in order to get rare rewards. It sorta acted like an extra place to relax at. As the game also had its own fishing hole, but this one was so beautiful. Even Link's face glows when he first sees it. It is truly such a beautiful place. It even has the seasons changing to give off different colors, which is such a nice touch. It really did feel like the relaxation point in Twilight Princess, and I enjoyed my time within it. The place itself was owned by Hannah, who accompanied Link in boat rides within the fishing hole. She would help Link fish deeper within the water and fish for items he couldn't really reach. It was such a unique concept that you could ignore entirely when playing the game, and this is how I feel like fishing should be implemented within these games. As there were big fish to catch as well, you didn't have to really do that, it was really just meant for relaxation. Which honestly makes Twilight Princess's version of the fishing hole the best type of minigame within the series. And surprisingly, Nintendo seemed to continue that idea with Majora's Mask's remake for the 3DS, as they added an entirely new area being its version of the fishing hole. And in it, you can even transform into Fierce Deity and fish away, with it being again just an extra place within the game that didn't unlock any special rewards behind it. It was just a place to visit and take in the game's beauty. Anyways, that about does it for this one. It took twice as long to make this list as I sort of fused 2 different top 5 lists into one. So please show your support by leaving a like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you have any other ideas for best/worst or any other top 5s you'd like to see me cover, please let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you all so much for watching. I've been ZeldaMaster, and I'll see you all in the next one.